evening, and welcome to another edition of the FTTC podcast, sponsored by California Waste Services, fantasy level waste solutions for the real world. California Waste Services, where every disposal is a winning pick. We are your home for breaking news and breaking balls in the fantasy sports world. From touchdowns to tailgates, we've got it all covered with a dash of witty banter. I'm your host, Jason Stankiewicz, and I'm joined here today by the smooth stash, Strickland Propane, Mr. Sam Prentice. Sam, how you doing?
Thanks for having me, Jess. That's quite an intro you got there.
Yeah, we cooked it up. We want to make sure the people get what they want. And FTTC, if we're going to make it big on the map, we got to make sure people know what they're in for.
Yeah, totally agree.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and kick things off with a little recap of last season. Now, Strickland Propane finished 8-6, bombed out of the first round of the playoffs, but it was a significant overachievement from the post-draft projections where they had you projected in 11th place. What was the key to the overachievement?
I think the key to the overachievement was definitely hitting on two of my later RB picks in Josh Jacobs and Miles Sanders, who really just blew me away in terms of expectations. I think that they both ended up being like top 15 running backs with I think Jacobs was like RB2 or RB3. So anytime you can get that sort of value that late in the draft, I feel like you're gonna end up having a pretty successful year.
Yeah, I mean, it was clearly some shrewd picks, and honestly, it's been a little bit of a turnaround from Strickland Propane the past couple of years. Back-to-back playoff runs after multiple years of missing out. Do you feel like you're starting to reach the next level as an owner?
Well, fantasy can be known to be a fickle mistress. So I'm just trying to live in the moment and enjoy I don't know if this can be defined as success, if making, the playoffs 2 years in a row can be defined as success, but I'm just trying to enjoy it while I can.
Fair enough. Living in the moment. I appreciate that. One man who's certainly living in the moment is Mr. Brian Durante after Roadrunners Naz secured the title. Now, there's, a lot of controversy around his title, given the situation where, the Disasters ended up conceding. Curious if you have any thoughts on that whole situation.
Can you repeat the question? I think my fucking connection is a little shoddy here. Were you asking about how the championship shook out last year?
Yep, exactly.
Is that what it was?
Roadrunners Naz ended up as champions with a 2-point margin over the Disasters.
Yeah, I mean, that's about as controversial as it gets, but I feel like everything was handled in a very above board way. And I think that both, it was, what was it? It was Durante got the title and then they split the winnings. Is that how it ended up shaking out?
Yeah, I think they came to an amicable agreement on the payout.
Yeah, I mean, that's about as well as that situation could have been handled, I think. I'm in favor. And, big shout out to our fearless leader, Roger Goodell, Mike Kokoris, for kind of navigating the ship through some murky waters there.
Mr. Roger Goodell himself handled it well. He, as you mentioned, honestly, probably his most graceful moment as commissioner.
Yes, I would have to agree with that for sure.
All right, now let's talk a little bit about your off-season training regimen as we get into thinking about this upcoming season. Like I said, you've had a couple good seasons back-to-back. What kind of changes have you installed the training facilities to improve performance?
Well, I wouldn't say it's any sort of like an upgrade, but I don't know if you knew this in the earlier days of my fantasy career. I pretty much did little to no off-season research up until maybe about, I don't know, 3 to 4 years ago when I started to get pretty plugged into the fantasy football subreddit, which is pretty much all speculation, and there's very little to no concrete evidence that ever gets posted on there. And it's a lot of threads that are titled "Why This Player Will Win You Your League." So I think just a steady diet of those posts really just kind of feeds into my draft strategy and helps influence my the success or missteps of my picks.
Now, I mean, there's obviously a lot of noise on those Reddit boards. How do you sift through what is real and what's just some wacko talking a bunch of nonsense?
I mean, I feel like there's a pretty decent amount of confirmation bias on my end, where if I see a post uh, pertaining to a player that's on my team or that I really want to draft, I feel like I will, really really lock in on that, and then sometimes that can hurt me, sometimes that can help me, but it's pretty much a crapshoot. So um, yeah.
All right. Well, one last one on off-season regimen here. Not too long ago, I guess a little bit longer now, but not too long ago, you did move over to a warmer climate in California. Has that helped recovery time?
I think so. I feel like being out here and having the game start 2 hours earlier definitely leads to a little more. You got a little more time on Monday night to kind of start your prep for the next week. So this will be my second year of playing a fantasy league in the Pacific time zone, and hope we can build upon the 8-6 season, and maybe push for a first round bye this year.
Oh, wow. Those are some high expectations for Strickland Propane. We'll, I hope it plays out for you.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to the draft here. So we obviously have the
Oh,
draft coming up in a couple weeks. I want to go ahead and read off your first picks for the last 5 years in terms of just position, right? We'll just
okay.
talk position here. So
Okay.
I got 2018 wide receiver, 2019 running back, 2020 wide receiver, 2021 running back, 2022 wide receiver. Are we seeing a running back this year?
Well, if I'm to follow with the trend, I think we will. But I think that I have had. I mean, just with the success that I had last year in taking a wide receiver in the first round, I feel like I'm going to be very tempted to follow that trend. But hey, if the right guy falls to me at number six, I feel like running back could be the way to go. But we'll see how the chips fall.
Well, I was going to get to that, and I'm curious. I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit.
Oh,
You don't have to give me a name, but maybe float an idea out there for the people. Like you said, sitting with a six pick, you're right smack dab in the middle. You got a specific player in mind right now?
I do have a specific player in mind, but I know that especially given our league's drafting tendencies, that could change at the drop of a hat. I've come to realize that participating in mock drafts is essentially useless because of like how differently our league drafts in relation to other leagues. I'll just use a little example. I was doing a mock draft yesterday, and um, I had Travis Kelsey dropped to me at number six, and I think that he will be gone by the time my pick rolls around in our league.
Wow.
Uh, so I just I have a group. Actually, really like only like 2-3 players that I'm targeting at the moment, but um, yeah, I feel like versatility is the name of the game here, and as long as one of those guys is available at six, which they probably should be, I'll be happy.
Yeah, with the six pick, I feel like you're very well positioned in the sense that if any of those guys ahead of you passes on a guy that you want, you're right there to snap him up, and if not, you still get a top level player.
Yeah, totally agree. Where are you drafting these days, Jazz?
Oh, I'm
This
sitting
league?
there at number 9, a little
Oh,
lower
okay,
back. So
okay,
we'll see what falls to me. I don't have anybody in mind right now. I'm just gonna kind of play it by what comes, and we'll
yeah,
we'll figure our draft out from there.
very nice.
All right. So every year there's someone in our league that makes a pick that makes you go, "What are you thinking?" Who's making the worst pick this year?
Man, you know, I feel like the odds-on favorite is gonna be Schillinger, but I feel like there are a couple players in our league who have their guys, and we'll maybe take a reach on them, just so they draft them like a round or two early, just to make sure that they're getting those guys on their team. And with that said, I think it's going to be Jack O'Malley that makes the head
Jack
scratcher pick when he
O'Malley.
when he,
Wow.
when he when he reaches for a member of the Chicago Bears, maybe a round or two earlier than they would normally go. So I guess it's not really
Yeah.
that much of a head scratcher if he's the one that's doing it, but yeah, that's what I think is
Yeah,
going to
it's
happen.
it's probably a race against Jacko to try and get Justin Fields or DJ
Yeah,
Moore.
exactly.
All right, let's move on to the upcoming season now. We'll have you address just a couple of NFL based predictions first, and then we'll talk about a couple predictions for our league. So kicking it off, who do you think ends up being the fantasy MVP for 2023?
Ooh, you know, I think Justin Jefferson is gonna repeat. I think he is primed to just have another like 300 plus point year. He's probably due for a little bit of a positive touchdown regression, considering I think he only caught like I don't know, like maybe around. I don't even know if he got to 10 last year. But I feel like he could see some positive regression there, and he's still going to get 200 plus targets. He's going to have a ton of receptions, and I think he's going to have some monster games.
I think that's a great pick, and obviously a member of Strickland Propane last year, so maybe a bit of a soft
Yes,
spot.
yes, absolutely.
All right, now moving on to the Super Bowl, the big game. Who you got?
Oh man, I think the Bills are going to take the leap this year. I think they're going to fight their way out of the AFC. And I think that I feel like the stars are going to align for the Niners. They're going to have hopefully a healthy quarterback room, and they've got all the weapons there. They got C-Mac, they've got Debo, they've got Kittle. Yeah, I think that, and I mean they've got a standout defense as well, and with what's his name, with Shanahan at the helm, I feel like the sky is the limit for them. So I think it's going to be Bills Niners. Do you want a prediction?
Sure, yeah, let's hear it.
Okay, I think it's going to be Bills Niners. But give me the Bills 31-29.
31-29. All right. All
Yeah.
right, well, we'll hold you to that. And honestly, we'll call you some kind of truth sayer if you get it right.
Oh,
All right, let's talk a little bit about our league now and make some predictions here. So every year, someone brings shame upon themselves. Whose turn is it this year to finish last?
oh man. Um, I it's tough to say. It's tough to make a prediction like that before the rosters have come out. So I feel like any name I mention is just going to be who I want to get last place. And and with that said, I feel like it's high time that our fearless leader Mike Kokoris gets knocked off his pedestal a little bit, and
Oh,
maybe he has to spend a year in the cellar to really humble himself.
that's a big talk. I think you're
Yeah.
not the first person to mention Mike finishing down there, but
um,
I think that a lot of members of the league would like to see it.
yeah. Hey, I mean, he wears the crown, so to speak. So I feel like a lot of people want to see that get knocked off, and to see him have to embarrass himself a little bit, or just undergo whatever our punishment is going to be this year.
Well, I personally would also love to see it, but let's go ahead and flip the question on its head now. Who's taking on the title?
Who is taking home the title? Well, obviously, I'd like to say myself, but I think just to keep it interesting, I think that we are going to see. I think we're going to see uh, Mr. Nate Johnson take home the title. I think that
Wow.
for once, Mr. Know It All Nate and all of his little crafty fantasy picks um, are gonna pay off for him, and he is going to win the league with a 13-1 record. What do you think about that?
13-1.
That's right. It's 14 games now. Yeah,
Now, I got to say, you are aware that Nate has missed the playoffs the last 4 years now, right?
4 years.
4 years running.
Jesus. Well, yeah. So he's due for some positive regression, right? Like that's totally that's how fantasy football works. So if you
Yeah,
miss the playoffs 4 years in a row, then you're bound to make it the next year.
it's got to pay off at some point, right?
Yeah, totally.
All right. Now, we obviously have our great weekly league punishment, the shotgun punishment for lowest points. I got two questions for you around that. Who's going to have the fastest shotgun, and who's going to shotgun the most?
Well, fastest shotgun is mm, close tie between Jacko and Steve, who I have seen.
Wow.
I think the last time Jacko shotgunned, he shotgunned like a an all day IPA and took it down like pretty quickly for how heavy of a beer that is. But I think I would have to give the edge to Steve. And then who is going to shotgun the most? Again, tough to make that call before I see any rosters, but I think it's going to be. I mean, if Coco ends up getting last, then it's going to be him. But I think we're going to see. I think we're going to see Timmy Boy do some a couple early morning Tuesday shotguns this year.
Okay. Okay. All right. Well, we're going to move on to our last section here. I want to get your thoughts on some of these rumors that are floating around, because there's been a lot of talk the past week or so about some big topics in FTTC. Let's go ahead and start off with Mr. Steve Blazer's delay in doing his punishment. Care to comment on that?
I think that Steve is a very honorable man. And with that said, I think he is going to he's going to see through this punishment. I think he is going to complete it. He's a great basketball player. He has a great skill set. He could easily fill in at the 1 or 2 spot on any NBA G League team. I think he might surprise some people out there on the court with his shiftiness. He's got a mean jumper, and he gives 100% on both ends of the court. So yeah, I think he's going to do it. He's overdue for it. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if if there was some excuse that materialized in the next week or so. But I'm hoping that he does it.
I would love nothing more than to see him out there on a G League court doing his best.
Yes.
Really working his magic, honestly.
Yeah.
All right. Now, the other two big rumors that are floating around both revolve around our commissioner, Mr. Mike Kokoris. Any thoughts on him announcing that he may choose to step down in 2040?
I mean, they're big shoes to fill, Jason. They're big shoes to fill. I think our league will be on the back foot a little bit immediately following his departure. But I'm confident that the 17 years between now and when he steps down, that we will be able to find a suitable replacement that can get us back to where we once were when he was in charge, and maybe even beyond that. Who's to say?
Maybe it takes some fresh blood to take us to the next level. Who knows?
I agree.
All right, last one for you here. Last rumor floating around. Obviously, we did our draft order the other night, and the commissioner ended up with the 1-1. Was it rigged?
Was it rigged? I don't think it was. Unless there was some way he could have set up his like Edge or whatever Chrome browser, have it like pre-recorded where he had like up the luck in his pick. I think we can say it was all above board. But I mean, if it did come out that it was rigged, that he gave himself the 1-1, I don't think that would really surprise me, Jason. I don't think it would.
Well, you've spoken highly of the commissioner's character, and one last jab right at the end there. Sam, thanks for joining us today. Absolute pleasure talking to you, and we look forward to having you on in the future. Best of luck for the draft. Best of luck for the season.
Thanks, Jason. Same to you.